Alright, so I'm getting ready to put the strings on this mandolin, just finished up. Just to run through the checklist of things I do before doing that. I wipe down the fingerboard with mineral spirits, then actually oil and wax the fingerboard. So that's what I've been done and wipe down. I have all the strings ready lined up to go, and I've made sure to slot the saddle appropriately. I've made sure to mark the underside of the bridge of which side is treble. And I've also used the straight edge and measure from where the nut is to about where the bridge will be. So for this mandolin, 13 7/8, and I just use a little pencil and just make a little line. Again, depending on the gauge strings you're using, that's going to affect the intonation and the compensation and exactly where it'll be, but it's good to have a rough estimate about where the 13 7/8 location is. I've also tightened the truss rod to create some relief, kind of preemptively. And then I've also double checked the nut to make sure it's going to fit where it needs to go, and that everything's square between, the edge that'll be against the fingerboard and then the bottom side of the nut. I've also I like to test the tuners and just test them out, maybe oil them before they go under string tension. It's just these little things that can make the whole process a little bit easier as you're going. So another thing I do with the tailpiece, it's always annoying when you're first putting the strings on. The loop ends can come off. So I just use a piece of like masking tape, and I'll do it right now. I'll just put the string on and I'll stick the masking tape over it. And that just kind of keeps it from popping off. Also, when I'm first putting strings on the instrument, I'll start with the outer two strings, so the outer E and the outer G, and then I'll kind of see, well, how's the action above the first fret? And do I need to make any adjustments now before I put the other 6 strings on? So it's just little things like that that can make the whole process a little bit easier. It's always just kind of tedious, no matter how you do it. But also doing the outer E and the outer G strings, I'll tune those up to pitch, and I'll check the octave at the 12th fret and kind of adjust the bridge from there. Again, it's just easier than when you have a million strings on. Well, it's not a million, it's actually 8 strings. But, these are just GHS light medium gauge strings. And you also have one pair of clippers handy. Snip the end. Usually I'll end up going through 2 pairs of strings. And that's because this pair I'll use to break in the instrument, because I always attach it to a tone right for a while. And then also setting it up, adjusting any high frets, you're tuning, detuning. It just weakens the strings super quick and kind of deadens them. So this is kind of the first of the 2 pairs, hopefully only 2 pairs. All right, so once I have the E and the G string on, that's when I'll put the nut in the nut slot, and that way the downward pressure will hold the nut in place. And I'll add the bridge, double check this has the T on the underside. First time hearing this instrument too. As you tune it, there's a lot of forces going on between the strings at the tailpiece and then at the tuning machines and pulling and angles. So always just kind of double check, make sure that the bridge is still sitting the way it needs to, and it's not like tilting too far forward or too far back, and same for the bridge, for the nut. So I can already tell that the nut is going to need to come down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tune it up to pitch, and at least get the placement of the bridge dialed in. So I just use one of these tuners. Another thing you can do to kind of help is to add like a little bit of graphite, or like I'll just do like a little drop of like olive oil in the nut slots, and that'll kind of just help with the strings kind of gliding through. Try to tune the instrument evenly, otherwise if this is too tight and this one's still loose, it'll just kind of seesaw the nut up and can flip the nut out of the nut slot. So that's pretty good actually, intonation wise. I can move it a little bit more forward. Back a little bit. Now when I'm moving the bridge, I'm not just sliding it, I'm actually lifting it up slightly and moving it back. With just these two strings, even with these two strings tuned to pitch, you can still lift, there's enough flex in the strings. You can just kind of pull the bridge up a little bit and kind of slide it. Again, like a millimeter, it's not a lot. That's right where it needs to be. And then what I'll do is, let me even that out a little bit. That's dialed in for those. Again, these are high. The distance between the first fret, top of the first fret, and the underside of the string. So they'll need to come down. Again, for right there, I like to have the E and the A string around like 0.009 or 0.010, and then for the D and G around like 0.010 or 0.011. So that's kind of the ultimate goal for those. So what I'm going to do is, I'll show you how I go about doing that. Really, if you're doing a lot of instruments and a lot of setup, I cannot recommend enough whatever this StewMac, it's like this dial indicator. You could probably make it yourself too. It's just a dial indicator that's kind of offset with the device right there to take the measurement. So I'm going to measure. I'm going to zero it and then press down. Right now it's at 20 thousandths of an inch, so I need to come down about 10 thousandths of an inch for that side. And then for the G, I'm going to zero it. I don't know if I can get a good shot there. Anyway, I'm zeroing it, and then I'm going to press down, and that's about 22 thousandths of an inch. So that needs to come down about 10 thousandths of an inch. So if that's the case where it's pretty even, where I'm coming down the same amount on each side, I'll take the nut out. And then I'll kind of detune it like both of the sides together to be even. I'll take the nut slit out, and I'm just going to remove material from the bottom. Now, when you're removing material from the nut from the bottom side, I like to draw reference lines. In this case, it'll be 0.010 of an inch around all 4 sides of the nut. All right, because I don't want to sand. I don't want to have one reference angle and then somehow sand like a weird wonky offset angle here on the bottom, and then it's not going to be sitting flush in the nut slot anymore. So it's better to have more reference lines that connect all the way around the nut. Another thing that I like to do, I'll take my thickness calipers. Let's see, of course it's not working. And I will take, I don't know how to, I'll take a flat reference surface. All right, hold. So let's say, take our flat reference surface, and then I'm going to just use the pencil lead and then just draw around it. And I'm kind of using the thickness of the pencil lead as the amount to remove. All right, so I don't know if you can really see it. There you go. So you have that marking, you have it around here, and around there, and then on that side too. So what I'm going to do is just kind of sand that amount down. Right over here I have the belt sander, and I'm just going to do a few passes on it. And I'm not going to remove all the way to the top of that pencil line. I'm gonna just do a few passes. And you don't want to just keep pulling in the same direction each time, because you could have an uneven removal of material. So I'm gonna rotate the nut as I go. And I'll do the same amount of passes with each rotation. All right, so that's not quite up to the top of the pencil line, so that's fine. Like I'd rather kind of work my way up to it than not.